Good morning, students. Today we will discuss the thorax and legs of insects. As you all know, the body of the insect is divided into three parts, that is, head, thorax, and abdomen. The middle part of the body, that is the thorax, it is the locomotory center and it is made up of three segments: prothorax, mesothorax, and metathorax. The first type of appendage which is found on the thorax are the legs. There are three pairs of legs, one pair in each segment. They are used for walking, running, etc. Then the second type of appendage or the locomotory organ are the wings. There are two pairs of wings, one pair in mesothorax and the other pair in metathorax. These wing bearing segments are collectively called as pterothorax. Now, depending upon the order and species, there may be two pairs of wings or one pair of wing, or wings may be totally absent. Each segment has a wall of chitinous plates, and the dorsal plate is called as tergum, and in case of thorax the tergum is also called, given another name called notum. On the ventral side is the sternum, and the lateral plates are called as pleuron. Before we discuss the various plates of the exoskeleton, I would like to tell you about the segmentation. As you can see in the first diagram, there are four segments: pro, meso, meta, thoracic segments, and the first abdominal segment. There is no sclerotization, hence there are no plates. Chitinous plates are absent. Then coming to the diagram B. This is the typical or hypothetical segmentation. Here we see that between two segments there is a groove which is called as anticostal sulcus. In the groove is present the membrane which we call as the intersegmental membrane, and in this intersegmental membrane there are small sclerites which we call as intersegmental sclerites. In each segment, the posterior edge or the border from where the ridge or where the groove will start, that is called as acrotergite. Now, what happens? In the present insects, mainly the pterygota and also some apterygotes, a secondary segmentation is seen. In the secondary segmentation, what happens? The intersegmental sclerites, they fuse together and with the sclerite of the posterior segment. Therefore, only a small membranous part is left, and that is just near the acrotergite. So this gives a pseudo segmentation, you can say, or a secondary segmentation, that is a membranous part between two sclerotized plates. The membranous part, as you can see in the diagram, it has shifted slightly towards the left. So this is the secondary segmentation. Now coming to the tergum. In case of pronotum of Orthoptera, we see that it is in form of a large plate. In other insects, we see that the notum is of normal size. There is no division, it is undivided. Then coming to the wing bearing segments, that is the mesothorax and metathorax, there are two type of sulci, that is transverse sulci and scutoscutellar sulci. These divide the notum into three areas: anterior prescutum, middle scutum, and the posterior scutellum. Now just behind, towards the posterior border of the sclera, a very narrow band of sclerite, you can say, is present, and that is the postnotum part of the segment. The postnotum is well developed in those segments which have wings for flight. For example, we see in case of Diptera. In Diptera, there is only the four wings are present. In that case, the mesopostnotum will be well developed. Then in case of beetles and bugs, we know the forewing is only protective in function and the hind wing is used for flight. So in this case, the metapostnotum will be well developed. Then coming to the odonates, that is the dragonflies and damselflies. In these insects, we see both pairs of wings are equally used for flight. So in this case, the mesopostnotum and the metapostnotum both will be well developed. Here is the diagram. Here in the diagram, as you can see, there is the transverse sulcus. This is the transverse sulcus. Then comes the scutoscutellar sulcus. It is dividing the notum into prescutum, scutum, and scutellum. And just behind the scutellum, this part is the postnotum. One more thing you can see, on the lateral side are present processes. These are called as anterior notal process and posterior notal process, which will articulate with the wing base. This we will discuss in detail when we discuss the wings. Then coming to the ventral plate, that is the sternum. The sternum is produced inside in form of a spine, and that is called as spina sternum, and rest of the sternum which is visible ventrally, that is called as eusternum. Now the eusternum is further divided by a sternal sulcus. This sternal sulcus, it is joining two pits of the sternal apophysis, and this sulcus divides the eusternum into a basisternum and sternum, these two areas. The sternal apophysis internally, that is inside the thorax, it forms a Y-shaped furca, and the two arms of this Y-shaped furcae, they are connected by muscles to pleural apophysis, which come from the lateral sides or the pleurons. So all these structures collectively make an internal endoskeleton for the attachment of muscles. Here is the diagram. As you can see in the first diagram, these are the three sternites, and this is the first spinal sternum, this is the second spinal sternum, and this is the third spinal sternum. Then this is the sulcus, as you can see, sternal sulcus. It is dividing the sternum into a basisternum and a sternum. Then coming to the second diagram, this is a cross section a cross section of the diagram, and in this cross section, if you see the cross section of the thorax, you can see this Y-shaped sternal apophysis, and it is connected with the muscles to this pleural apophysis. This is one, this is the other pleural apophysis, and these completely form an endoskeleton to which the muscles of the legs and wings are attached. Now coming to the pleuron, that is the lateral plates. Basically, the pleuron is made up of three sclerites: sternopleurite, anapleurite, and coxopleurite. The sternopleurite, as you can guess by the name, it is the ventral plate, and it is fused with the sternum. The other two dorsal sclerites, that is the anapleurite and coxopleurite, they are fused. They form the pleuron in the pterygotes, but the anapleurite is separated in case of apterygotes. Now, there is a vertical pleural sulcus which divides the pleuron into anterior episternum and the posterior epimeron. Dorsally, this pleural sulcus is produced into a pleural process which articulates with the wing base. There are two basalar sclerites in front of this pleural process and one subalar sclerite on the posterior part, just behind the pleural process, and these small sclerites have been separated from the episternum. All these sclerites, they help in the wing movement, in the wing articulation. Here is the diagram of the pleuron, as you can see. Now, in this pleuron, as you can see, there is this membranous part on the dorsal side. This is the wing base. Then another membranous part towards the ventral side, to which the leg, the coxa of the leg is attached. Now, as you can see, there is this pleural sulcus dividing the pleuron into the anterior episternum and the posterior epimeron. This pleural process, it is articulating with the wing base. There are basalars anteriorly and subalar posteriorly. Now coming to the first type of appendage, thoracic appendage, that are legs. The legs are uniramous. Uniramous means they are unbranched, they are truly segmented, jointed. That means each segment has a complete unit of musculature, nerves, and blood vessels, etc. And they are attached to the pleuron by a membrane towards the ventral side. The legs have 6 segments: coxa, trochanter, femur, tibia, tarsus, and pretarsus. The tarsus can be made up of a number of tarsomeres from 1 to 4 in number. The pretarsus can be modified according to the habit of the insect. For example, in clinging insects like ectoparasites, like the body lice present in the hair of the human beings. Pediculus, it is having a single claw. The pretarsus is modified into a single claw-like structure. In Diptera, we see that there are a pair of lobes called pulvilli, and on these pulvilli small claws are attached. Then in case of cockroach, Pediplaneta, there is a median lobe called aerolium between the two claws. Here is the diagram. So this is the first diagram. You can see the different parts of the leg. Coxa, a small trochanter, two large segments, femur and tibia. Both of them are always at an angle. Then this is the tarsi. Tarsi is made up of a number of tarsomeres, and last is the pretarsus. Then this is the pretarsus of cockroach, Pediplaneta. There is this aerolium plate in between the two claws. In case of housefly, we see that there are two lobes called pulvili, and to them small claws are attached. Now coming to the different types of legs. There can be variation in the form of legs according to the habit. First type of leg is ambulatorial type of leg. This is used for walking. It is found in earwigs of order Dermaptera and also beetles. It is a simple structure, as you can see in the diagram. Then coming to the cursorial type of legs, which are used for running. Example, fast moving insects like cockroaches. Now here what you see, that in the diagram it is very much similar to that of ambulatorial leg, but the alignment or the position of the leg differs. In this case we see that this complete portion of tibia and tarsus and pretarsus, this lies parallel to the ground. So this gives an extra support to the insect while running. Third type of leg is saltatorial leg, used for jumping, as you can see in grasshoppers and crickets. In grasshoppers and crickets, the hind legs, they are very large in size, and especially the femur is large in size because it has strong muscles which when contract and then relax, they give a spring or they give a thrust to the insect and it jumps. The fourth type of leg is the natatorial leg. Natatorial legs are used for swimming and they are found in aquatic insects, aquatic beetles, bugs, etc. In this case, we see that the whole leg, it is in form of a streamline tapering. The segments are decreasing in size, pointed. Tarsomere is usually 1 in number. There are number of hairs. These hairs are centrifuge hairs, and these hairs, they help in swimming as well as in respiration. Now, how do these legs they function? They function like the oars of a boat. When you are driving a boat, you use the paddles or you use the oars, chappu. When you push them back, the boat, it moves forwards. Similarly, when these insects, aquatic insects, when they give a back stroke by the legs, the body of the insect, it moves forwards anteriorly. Then the next type of leg is the clasporial type of leg, which is used for clinging, found in the ectoparasites, the true lice of order Malophaga and order Siphunculata, and as you can see, the pretarsus, it is modified in form of a claw which by which it can cling to the external body part, that is the skin of the host. Then coming to the raptorial legs, as you can see in praying mantis, raptorial legs are for catching the fast moving prey. Now, in case of if you have seen praying mantis, you must have noted that the forelegs, they are pointing forwards anteriorly, and this is the foreleg of the insect. Here you see that the femur, it is having a groove like structure, and the tibia, it is having a number of spines. The prey, it is caught in between the tibia and the femur, and the angle of this tibia and femur, it is increased or decreased according to the size of the prey. So the animal is locked inside this, and then it is carried to the prey is locked in between the femur and tibia, and then it is carried to the mouth. So this is raptorial leg for catching the prey. Next is the fossorial type of legs, which are used for digging, that is burrowing insects which live in the soil, and they burrow and make tunnels inside the soil. For example, Grylotalpa, which you call as mole cricket. Here we see in the forelegs, as you can see, that the femur, tibia and pretarsus, they together they are forming pointed structures which are close together as if the digits of the hand, the fingers of the hand, by help of which it digs the mud. Fossorial type of legs. Also you can see all the segments are very short, thick and strong. Last is the corbiculate type of leg, which is used for foraging. Foraging means for collection of pollen. You can see in honeybees as well as other bumblebees, etc. Out here in the honeybees, the foreleg, it has a spur and it is used for cleaning the antenna. All the pollen grain which sticks to the antenna, it is rubbed off and collected by the spur of the foreleg. But the middle and hind leg, they are modified for pollen collection. As you can see in the diagram, this is the tibia, and this tibia is having pollen basket. Pollen basket is also called as corbicula, and this is the first tarsomere. It is large in size, called as metatarsus, and here you can see the pollen comb. Pollen comb is also called as scopa. Now, how do the pollen basket and pollen comb function? The pollen basket is made up of chitinous hairs which are arranged in a circular form with a depression in the middle. So they form basket-like structures. There are number of pollen baskets on the tibia, and in the metatarsus, you can see there are many transverse lines, transverse rows of cuticular hairs. These form comb-like structures and they form the pollen comb. When the honeybee, it visits a flower, it by the help of its mouth parts, the siphoning mouth parts, it sucks in the nectar from the flowers, and Along with this, the pollen grains of the flower, they stick to the body. These pollen grains are collected from all the body parts by the pollen brush. They are combed and then they are collected inside the pollen basket. Then these legs, they are moved across the mouth parts and the pollen grain, it is ingested. So we see that the nectar which was sucked by the honeybee, it is not the food of the honeybee, it is reprocessed in the crop to form the honey, and then it is regurgitated back and collected in the beehive. Whereas the pollen grains which were ingested, they are digested and assimilated in the alimentary canal of the honeybee, and that is their actual food. So these were the different types of legs, their various modifications according to the habit of the insect.